He was right to take advantage of it, because right he goes in, Kata's skirt gets caught in the wheels, frustrating her immensely and forcing her to try to get it out, boring most of everyone, and they head back to class, except for Mayo, who stays and emotionally supports Kata. No Mayo, don't use the scissors. I want my uniform to stay in one piece. But they're two pieces. Yes, I know that. I meant the figure of speech. Once he closes the door, he puts the magic book down, and sits down on the teacher's desk. Heck, the more he sat in this room, the more he thought of someone. He pulls the brim of his hat slightly, as he remembers, a true mystery at that. But then he remembers what he has to do, and he opens up the magic book he fought so hard to capture. He turns to the first page, analyzing the words. It sure as hell was not Japanese, and, judging by some of the crude pictures, this thing hadn't had a host. Actually, since a long time ago. He wasn't an expert in magic dating, so he couldn't exactly tell when, nor did he understand any of these Germanic languages. However, the book quickly attempts to float again, and yells at Killjoy, seemingly extremely pissed off. Hey you absolute prick, get the fuck off the grate. Killjoy just punches it again and it shuts up, as well as stopping its floating habits. Odd. Magic books very rarely recover their magic usage this fast. The thing must carry a lot of grudges from beyond the grave. Well, it's time to look through the back, find out how many lives this thing has gotten. As he sifts through the pages, he reaches the last page, where most magic books reveal their victim count, and their names. This book, to his surprise, did not have such a thing, but instead, a passage that he could not read either. This book certainly was not run-of-the-mill, and he had a feeling he'd have to keep the magic lock on so it wouldn't go on a rampage. He relocks the book and considers taking it with him back to the car, but a book of this size can't be put in his pocket. Plus, he had a feeling that his celebrity status today would end up blowing his cover if he did carry it without the pocket. So he put it in one of the drawers and left it there, with no hints he was even there to begin with. Soon after, he exits the room and actually prepares to leave, but then he realizes something. His stomach is rumbling. So, he ends up walking to the vending machine and getting a bag of chips, so that he can sit down and hopefully enjoy them. Then he takes a bite, noting it tasted rather unhealthy. He hated that revelation, but, considering that was the best the vending machine could do, he couldn't complain. Then, noticing it's almost lunchtime, and if he ends up being flirted with by someone a lot younger than him, he's going to lose his shit, eats the rest of the chips and heads back to his car. Once he makes it in, he texts his boss what happened with the book, the damage bill, and everything. He seemed very annoyed at the response about the damage bill, typing something back about him improving, since last time, he reverted 3, before he hit the last buy. Then another response about that not being what's concerning, and Killjoy responds by texting. Why the hell are you so goddamn concerned about the damage? This is a magic bank crisis I'm investigating. The text after was a emoticon, and something about letting him do whatever he wants, but telling him not to come crying if the budget gets cut. Good grief, he thought. There's a good restaurant close to here, according to his car GPS. Hopefully they'll taste great and not bother his diet. After arriving at Pierre's Sandwich Miracle, he sits down, and simply waits to be waited. The waiter eventually comes by, a slim, cute-looking man with black hair and orange eyes, with a menu. Good afternoon, sir. The lunch menu just opened up, as you came in. Any drinks do you want? We have plenty. I'll take it. Killjoy looks through the menu, until he finds the beverage aisle. Glass of water please. Thank you, I'll go and get that, for you. The man leaves, and Killjoy looks through the menu to figure out what he'll put on his sandwich. The waiter soon comes back and asks him what he'd like to order. I'd like a whole wheat sandwich with tomatoes, cheese, onions, and... Killjoy intensely slams the table and he says this. Octopus tentacles. The waiter honestly is a little put off by this, like he's never seen anyone be this passionate about a meal before. Why? You must be someone special having octopus arms on your sandwich, considering it's the least ordered ingredient on the menu. He writes the order down on his notepad. Any condiments you want? Jellyfish and mayonnaise please. I'll get all that, for you in a moment. The waiter takes off to inform the chef, seeming a little bewildered. That's just what Killjoy thought anyway. Probably wasn't the case at all. As he sits there, he takes out his card, his International Threat Destruction Order Identification 11 at that. Some would say that he looked at it in remembrance had they been really paying attention. He soon puts it back and almost begins to do the restaurant crossword, but something feels off about his bowels. Expired chips maybe? No, that can't be the case. The university student council or the staff would be on top of stuff like this. But then he remembered the brand the chips were, and realized he never heard of this brand, nor did it have a nutritional label. And the Japanese government is on that, just as hard. So, there's only really one possibility, why his bowels are this disrupted. Someone was trying to kill another student, possibly even gang-related. Oh well. Soon, he jolted to the toilet. But then, as soon as he went, a green-haired girl with polite mannerisms dropped by, presumably waiting to be seated. But then, she saw something at Killjoy's table, and seemed to get very angry at it. Then she walked out and drove off. After Killjoy gets out of the washroom, he sees that the waiter has stayed close to his table and was guarding the food for him. How awfully nice. Exactly, as you ordered, sir. Kind of surprised you were in there for so long. Must have been some bad food you ate. Yeah, guess so. Enjoy your meal. And make sure not to get the toilet too dirty this time. Janitor gets paid almost nothing. What a really nice waiter, Killjoy thought. Might be what this world needs right now. But then, Killjoy hears a voice inside his head, presumably from one of his memories, saying, "Hey smarty pants, let's go and play on the swing set." That's a very nice one, he thought. He carefully, and with precision, eats the meal so that no possible spills could be made, and the waiter would not have to clean it up after him. The octopus seemed especially delicious to him, mixed in with jellyfish and cheese. It was a flavor he never thought he'd need. The waiter comes back and notices that he has eaten the whole sandwich incredibly neat. "Oh, I see you put in some consideration for me. How very nice of you. Won't reduce your total, though, if that's what you were trying to do." "I wasn't trying to do that. Just thought I'd do something. Your total is 1,100 yen. Now, I suggest you pay it, and you probably will, but if you don't, I got a feeling that you're going to have a bad time." "Was that an attempt to try to frighten me? Because that's not going to work. Here's the money." "Sorry. That was just a joke I was trying to crack based on your build." "Well, keep doing what you're doing." Killjoy hands an additional 6,000 yen tip for the waiter, very much surprising him in astonishment. "That's what you'll be getting out of the job you did." Killjoy walks out of Pierre's Sandwich Miracle, and as soon as he gets into the car, he tilts his hat back and smiles a little. It's about time to head back, as unfortunate as that is for him. Meanwhile, back at the university, the midterm assembly has just begun, and all the students that are not on stage are seated. "Glad to have all of you here, Seikyo University. It seems like the student council has something important to say. Given that the school keeps them in high regard, they have no reason to be joking around or making this midterm go to waste. As all of you can probably tell, we are one day away from fall, probably your least favorite. We can assure you that this fall will, like every other year, be exciting, but at the same time, not too exciting, because I'm sure all of you want to learn, just as much as we, the student council, do." They get a light clapping from the audience. Of course, we'd like to mention that some leaves might be piling up around the university campus, despite how, well, cramped it is in here. We'd greatly appreciate it if you took some time out of your day and... Boring. A voice yells out from the crowd. Of course, someone gets on spotlight duty and points to the source. Turns out it was Big Mouth Cat all over again. "Excuse me, miss. We really would love to take your feedback seriously. Would you suggest anything to make?" "See? There's the problem. Seriously, not only do you suck at being students, but you also suck at being parents." Immediately on her saying this, a brunette whispers in the student council speaker's ear about something. Of course, while they are doing this, the president is off to find the disciplinary committee. And, the speech? Sucked even worse. Some members of the crowd are slightly and very subtly agreeing with her. "Okay, maybe the speech wasn't the greatest. You think you can do better than the entire writing staff we have and the faculty? Not like I'm. PFFFTT. Of course I can. I, the great Kata, will be glad to take the mic and make this the best day we've had in a long while." She proudly gets out of her seat and takes the center stage, mic and all, casually looking through their notes, but then throwing it to the side. "Alright, I'm sure none of you really care about the leaves, right?" The crowd says yes very quietly to that. "Exactly. Who cares about a bunch of tree sperm anyway? Don't make it about them. You want to do something which is going to have them removed anyway. Which brings me to my grand plan." She slams down an entire whiteboard and a stand out of her skirt, gets a ruler, and proceeds to point everything out. The whiteboard is very colorful. First off, Culture Festival is happening for 3 weeks. Sure, we had one in the spring, sure, but it's a lot better when you don't have to worry about that pesky air conditioning. Some jocks in the crowd immediately start to cheer loudly. The rest just look at them, as if they're believing in a fairy tale for real. "Wait a minute, Suzuki. You can't do that." The council planner immediately interjects. "Now, I'm sure some of you may be wondering whether or not this is going to affect your work or anything. It's only going to improve it, and I bet my boxers on that. Why would my plans ever fail?" The room then remains silent for a bit, until someone says, "Well, it's better than the trike stunt today." So, the crowd unanimously begins clapping for her. Second, "I'm going to invest in the literature club." Screw you, if you don't think a good book or manga is enough for a club. The nerds demand respect, damn it. Legends say that the introverts cheered massively along with the jocks, already pre-hyped from getting a culture festival again. By the way, I'm also going to put in a word with the literature club to allow visual novels that are not. You know what I mean. Sex is bad, alright. From the back of the room, one peering in would faintly hear Haru saying the mad lass actually fucking did it, masked by even more cheers. For Haru, the bet economy is constantly on high demand because of how absolutely nuts Cat is. Haru's entire outside of school hobby is to get people to bet money, so, when she heard that such an impossible, crazy ass, 1 in 100,000 chance, that Kata Suzuki, the class clown who hates visual novels, would petition for visual novels for the literature club, which, by the way, none of them even are in a ruling position of, she had to jump on it. That is the story on how Haru managed to gain enough money for the literature club to buy an old pickup truck with no lease anyway. And she was goddamn proud of it. "No, Suzuki. You also can't go and decide budgets." The council planner interjects, but gets a rubber squeaky hammer thrown at him by Kata. It doesn't faze him in the slightest. "Well, I could, if you believed hard enough. Speaking of which, let's get to believing, shall we?" All the lights go out, leaving Evertone really goddamn confused. Until someone hijacked the spotlight and stage controls. Kata begins dancing to incredibly cutesy music, while winking at the audience. She begins to sing. Kata ends up leaving the headmaster's office. Of course Hera and Mayo were waiting for her. So, any punishment this time? No. Turns out the student body agreed with me so much that I only got 1 day of detention. Well, that's great, isn't it? Only 1 day? Other students would have been suspended for that stunt you pulled. Haru tries to cheer Kat up, but she seems sad about something else. The detention was just a talk, a sit-in, a therapy session, and nothing else. Not even really a detention. She puts her head down. Geez, it's a world all about equality, and yet, somehow certain people get all the benefits, while the rest get none. Even in this university. Hey, I'd love to be getting some benefits. Where can I sign up? Mayo excitedly asks. The benefits are metaphorical, Mayo-chan. Kata goes and walks off. Huh? Kata-chan. Stay here. I want to hear what you're talking about. Mayo seems very concerned, as Kata walks further and further away. I hope she has a good day. Don't you, Big Breast-chan? Mayo is noticeably worried enough to not see Hera immensely blushing from the nickname Mayo just gave her. Oh. Yeah, I hope so too. The two try to strike up conversation as they leave the school, it being the end of classes, but there's a serious wall of ice between the bizarre Mayo and the bookworm Haru. Eventually, something does happen. What's your BWH? What? It's just that I really like your posture and I can't seem to figure out something. But why do you need my breast size for anything? Well, I get cramps on my back. Oh, what a nice and innocent answer. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. If you happen to be having back pain, make sure that your back muscles are doing just fine. Actually, exercise, as a whole is great, for you. But why don't you do it? Hera looks at Mayo like she's about to strangle her. Because I don't have the time. Wow, that's the happiest you've ever been, Big Breast-chan. Hera wasn't happy in the slightest. 95 centimeters. Huh? My total bust is 95 centimeters. Also, it weighs a lot. Can't exactly remember what number. Gosh, those must be heavy to have. Yeah, I know, can't go up the stairs without them bouncing in my face. Genetics sometimes bites someone in the ass. Oh god. The genetics are biting people. At this point, Hera notices. She seems oblivious to the world around her, and it's like she's learning everything all over again. She desperately needs someone to be her friend. She then smiles back and, oh, silly you, genetics aren't like ticks you find in the grass. They're what you are made up of, like flour makes up bread. Wait, really? Where do you get all this information? It's all from reading books. They're nice, fun, and give you a lot of pictures. Wow, thank you so much. I'm going to read anything you give me, alright? Mayo smiles like a child. Killjoy comes back to the school after classes end, only met by the clubs doing activities, and the paperwork of the faculty. He enters the abandoned room, now his base of operations, only to be greeted by Kinniku. He seemed to have gotten his own seat. Hey. Was keeping the place safe, for you. Don't want any of the students knowing what happens in here. Well, thanks. Although I didn't ask. When do vigilante cops ever ask anyone to guard documents? You have a point. You're dismissed for now. Don't keep your buddy waiting, alright? You bet. Kinniku runs out of the room and hightails it. Killjoy then thinks to himself again how he's going to find out who was potentially being murdered. He's going to have to look at security footage, but there's a chance they also thought of that, and there's no way in hell he's going to get clearance to the university security. So, he's going to have to think of something else. A day later, everything resumes, as it should at Seikyo University, everyone getting into the university at a set time. Killjoy is hiding in an alleyway, monitoring using something, but what is it? Kata comes back, still somewhat saddened from yesterday. However, Hera and Mayo seem to have gotten newfound determination through what happened yesterday, for different reasons obviously. Kinniku seems to be bolting, as if he was late, but it soon turns out he was pretty early. Hey Kata. Hello. Kata mumbles. Well, guess what? Our plan worked. You know, that bet I always wanted to pull off since middle school? It paid off. Now I have 687,904 yen to help invest in the literature club. Hooray. That's fantastic. She seems sarcastic about it. So, any new big stunts you want to do? Anything to bet? Haru says excitedly. Yeah, we can even study physics. Mayo also chimes in. Sorry. All stunted and learned out today. Kata, are you okay? You're never like this, and it's making me really worried. Don't worry about me, alright? I'll still be in classes. Kata says instinctively, trying to avoid any emotional conversation. Kata-chan, are you at least going to get me those books you promised over text? Mayo looks at her. Yes I will. She begins to walk towards the school, before being grabbed on the shoulder by Haru, extremely worried. Kata, this isn't you. You'd make jokes about things, do something funny, call me names. But not sob for a night straight. Kata turns around fast and seemed to be very sad and angry at the same time. Well, maybe you weren't friends with me at all, if you're saying stuff like that. Kata turns back towards the school and begins profusely crying out loud, running to the alleyway. It makes Hera and Mayo feel really bad. Big Breast-chan. Is she going to come back? Of course she will, Mayo-chan, of course she will. She has to. It deeply pains Haru to see her best friend Kata in a state like that, so emotionally clouded that she'd run away from a place filled with people.